I'd like to acknowledge with deep gratitude and respect that I have the privilege to live and work on the ancestral unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. Since I speak so quickly, most of what I say is written on the slides. Hopefully, being able to read along as I speak will aid understanding. These are stressful, uncertain times. I'm going to try to say some things today to help relieve your stress, to help you feel some of the burden lifted from your shoulders. The most important element in terrific parenting is simply to love your child. That's it. That's all you need. Not the child you hoped you would have, but the child you have, shortcomings and all, celebrating his or her inner beauty and strengths. Children who are truly loved know themselves to be valued. That knowledge is worth more than gold. Your caring is more important than your knowledge or skill, material possessions, or doing the textbook perfect thing. You don't have to have studied lots of books or be up on the latest theories of this or that. It doesn't matter if you don't have much money and can't afford the newest toys or gadgets. Your humanity is what matters. You are enough. Maternal sensitivity and warmth outweighs early adversity and socioeconomic disadvantage, hands down. And this is one of the old studies that showed that. Going from left to right is higher socioeconomic status to lower socioeconomic status. The yellow bars are for average moms and the blue bars are for really responsive moms. And the bars are behavior problems. So a lower bar is better than a higher bar. And if you look from the right to the left, you can see that the blue bars of the poorer kids are lower. They're showing fewer behavior problems than the wealthier kids with the yellow bars, the less responsive moms. Responsive parenting can override socioeconomic disadvantage. A caring relationship is also what is most important for the best educational outcomes. A man named Malthus did a study where he looked all over the world at all early childhood programs in every country, everywhere he could find, and he wanted to see what matters most. And what he found is that it's not the number of kids, it's not the adult-child ratio, it's not having the best materials. Those matter, but they don't matter most. What matters most is the caring relationship between the adults and the children. If the children feel cared about, the results are the best. Attachment is what we call the love between a baby and caregiver. Your children need to know with absolute, unshakable confidence that they can never do anything to lose your love for them and that you'll always be there for them. Your children need to know they can relax because you're there. They can count on you to take care of them, to be there when they need help or reassurance. They can count on you to keep your word and do what you say you will. And they know you won't suddenly get enraged or start acting unpredictably. Secure attachment is the cornerstone for everything else in life. Interpersonal relationships, doing well in school, having the courage to explore and take risks, etc. Before the term attachment existed, Erik Erikson called this basic trust because he defined it as knowing beyond any shadow of a doubt that you're loved. Feeling the world is basically a good, safe, trustworthy place where you'll be helped if you need it, where things make sense and are predictable. He considered this the cornerstone of a healthy personality. Besides your love, children need to feel heard, seen, really seen, and valued for who they truly are. It's so powerful to be heard, understood, and seen for who you truly are and liked anyway. The quality of your listening, rather than the wisdom of your words, is often what will have the most impact. You don't need to say anything. The act of listening with your full, undivided attention, without interrupting or doing something else at the same time, conveys more strongly than any words that you value your child. Staying fully in the present moment, giving your child your full, undivided attention is not easy. To do that, you need to set aside your own worries and preoccupations, thinking about what you need to do next, even trying to anticipate where your child's train of thought is going, or whether you're sufficiently in tune with your child. Often we simply need someone to be there. Simply be there, not to fix anything or do anything in particular, but just to let us know we're supported and cared about. We adults tend to want to do for children. We think we should be talking, offering advice, problem solving. We should be acting, fixing whatever is bothering our children. Because we care, we're tempted to want to do more than just listen. When a child is struggling, our natural first inclination is to want to get in there and help out. But often what children need most is for us to listen to them. You don't need to say or do anything. If you solve the problem, you're the strong, heroic one, and the child is the weak, needy one. Often what children need most is to be heard and to hear his or her own thoughts by saying them out loud. Now I'd like to show a video. I hope it works. It doesn't have any sound. It's a child building a tower. That's all I'm going to say, and I'll talk to you about it afterwards. Now, how many of you would have been sorely tempted like me to go in there and try to help before he finished, right? He has the right idea. He's got it. He knows what he's trying to do. Why don't we just help him out? But if we helped him out, he wouldn't have this great pride he has at the end. He did it himself. So we need to be patient. Don't intervene too early to help out. Give your child the time and space to figure out how to solve a problem on his or her own. For example, don't rush to hand your baby something slightly out of reach. Let your baby figure out a way to get that himself. When a child doesn't feel understood, little things can become big issues. In fact, John Gottman spent his entire career studying marriages. And what he found is that if a wife felt heard by her husband, The marriage was essentially divorce-proof. The importance of listening. Responsive parenting, listening and taking turns in conversation with children, also aids language development and brain maturation. The conversation, the human interaction that takes place in the context of reading, seems to benefit language development, literacy, and brain maturation, even more than the reading itself. The critical variable is the number of conversational turns taken. It's talking with the child, listening to and responding, not talking to or at the child, that drives the effect. Children who've experienced more conversational turns show greater activation in the language region in prefrontal cortex, Broca's area. That explains almost 50% of the relation between early language exposure and later language skills. To be the parent you want to be, to take care of yourselves, don't be too hard on yourself. Take care of yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. The Western emphasis on self-reliance, not being dependent on anyone, is wrong and destructive of your mental and physical health. It's okay to ask for help. It's a sign of wisdom, not weakness. Everyone needs help now and again. Mistakes happen. You're human. You're going to screw up sometimes and do things you regret. That's okay. You don't need to be perfect. Besides, no one ever is. Everyone messes up now and again, including me. Imperfect is not the same as worthless. Don't be so hard on yourself when you make a mistake. Forgive yourself. You don't have to be perfect to be an amazing person and an amazing parent. And I can guarantee 100% that worrying about whether you're a good enough parent will not improve your parenting. It will only make it worse. So relax. Please remember, you haven't failed until you've tried for the last time, and you haven't lost until you quit. What else do children need from us? Besides loving, listening, and being patient, your children need you to believe in them. Children need to believe in themselves. They need to be proud of who they are. They need to believe they can and will succeed. There are two roots to this. One is they need to know that you believe in them and fully expect them to succeed. That's different from putting pressure on your child. It's important to communicate loud and clear the faith and expectation that your child will find his or her way. The expectations we have for a child have a big effect on that child's expectations for him or herself. And the expectations a child has for him or herself can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. In social psychology, there's a little cottage industry and something called stereotype threat. There are lots of stereotypes in our culture. One of them is that in general, men are better at math than women. So a group of researchers went to a university and gave a standardized math test. And no surprise, as a group, the male students scored higher than the female students. Then the researchers took exactly the same test to an exactly comparable group of university students. The only difference was they said one sentence before the exam. What they said was, this particular test has been designed to be gender neutral. On this particular test, women score as well as men. And what did they find? The women scored as well as the men. It was the same test. The only difference was the expectations the women had for themselves. Too often, our expectations for children with disabilities or from disadvantaged backgrounds are too low. Better to always be open to the possibility that any child might go on to do amazing things. Just one person believing in you, believing in your potential, can make all the difference. Erik Erikson considered hope the earliest and most indispensable psychological strength. Hope is a socially supported vision. It's hard to hold on to it if there's no one else who shares that vision with you. Parents, teachers, and others need to make it absolutely clear that they share that vision and hold fast to it. A 2009 Gallup poll of over 7,000 students in grades 5 to 12 throughout the U.S. found that hope predicted college grades and college success better than did high school grades or standardized test scores. The second route to believing in themselves is that children need doable challenges. They need opportunities to do things that enable them to see for themselves that they're capable. It's not enough for you to tell them that they're capable. They need to see evidence themselves to believe that. Pride, self-confidence, and joy come from seeing yourself succeed at something that you know is difficult, even the youngest infants. Show children you believe in them by giving them an important responsibility. In a study called the Coca-Cola study, there was a elementary school where there were many fifth grade boys who were terrible behavior problems, real problem for the school, and terrible readers. And the principal called those fifth grade boys in and said, "This is serious. I have a very important responsibility for you. I'd like you to tutor the second graders who are struggling in reading." He couldn't ask them to tutor the third graders because they didn't read much better than the third graders, but they read better than the second graders. And the boys took this as a serious responsibility. And in short order, their behavior problems disappeared. And by the end of the school year, not only were those second graders reading better, but those fifth grade boys were reading better. It's hard to get chores done while parenting little ones. Make it easier on yourself and give your children a big boost to their pride. Let your toddler help set the table or do other household chores. Young children love to do adult chores. Your faith that they can contribute will mean a lot to your children. And doing these chores helps to develop their fine and gross motor skills and their focused attention and concentration. Children we all need, to be treated with dignity. Yes, every human being, regardless of their age or situation in life, should be treated with dignity. That is not made to feel ashamed, nor made to feel embarrassed. Don't laugh at a child, with but not at. Correct a child subtly. For example, in private, not in front of others. Or show the right way without making a big deal of the fact that the child did it wrong, or even necessarily pointing out that the child did it wrong. Smith and Small spent their whole careers studying the coaching of youth baseball and basketball teams. And they found that although baseball and basketball coaches rarely engaged in punitive or hostile actions, those rare behaviors had disproportionate negative impacts. It's not enough to usually be supportive. It's a very important principle that one negative act, such as humiliating someone, can override the benefit of scores of positive ones. What else do children need? They need abilities and skills important for succeeding in the 21st century. Some of the skills most important for happiness and success in school and in life are executive functions. And executive functions happen to be my specialty. Executive functions make it possible for us to resist reacting, instead taking time we need to think before acting, to meet novel, unanticipated challenges and find creative solutions, mentally play with ideas and consider alternatives, and stay focused despite distractions. Executive functions have been found to be more predictive of academic and career success than socioeconomic status or IQ. Executive functions depend on prefrontal cortex and the other neural regions with which it's interconnected. Prefrontal cortex is the newest area of the brain over the course of evolution, the area of the brain that takes the longest to develop in a human life, and the most vulnerable area of the brain. If anyone is sad or stressed, lonely, or not physically fit, prefrontal cortex and executive functions are the first to suffer and suffer the most. That means that if someone is sad, stressed, lonely, or not physically fit, that person's ability to problem solve, screen out environmental distraction, or exercise the self-control to not act impulsively, resist temptations, delay gratification, will be compromised. Creativity requires that one feel relaxed enough to be playful. Children need to feel safe if they're to push the limits of what they know, venture into the unknown, take the risk of making a mistake or being wrong. Our attentional control, creativity, and ability to think outside the box all suffer when we're sad, stressed, or lonely. A few ways children can practice concentrating and thus improve their focused attention is something like this, for example. Just walking on a line on the ground is as difficult for preschoolers as it is for you and me to walk on a log or a balance beam. It takes serious concentration and focused attention. And once they get good at it, you can make it more difficult. They can do it while balancing something on their head or holding a bell. You can do it with them. And the rule is that no one should make a sound with his or her bell. Remember, helping with kitchen chores or other household tasks can train the executive function of focused attention. Inhibitory control at the level of behavior is self-control or response inhibition. Resisting temptations, not acting impulsively, thinking before you speak or act. It's tempting to jump to a quick conclusion about why a child didn't do what he or she was supposed to do. But we need to exercise self-control and humility. We might be wrong. People have assumed that if children knew what they should do, they would do it, right? Obviously, if they didn't, they were intentionally misbehaving. But between knowing and implementing, another step long ignored is often needed. When there's a strong competing response, that response has to be inhibited, and a young child may not be able to do that. A child may know what he or she should do and want to do that, but still not be able to act accordingly. Another executive function is working memory, holding information in mind and working or playing with it. I predict that a great way to improve children's focused attention and working memory is simply to tell them stories. Storytelling should be a terrific way to challenge and improve both working memory and sustained attention, both the telling and the listening, because it challenges them. Executive functions need to be continually challenged to see improvements, not just used, but challenged. I'm a huge fan of storytelling. Storytelling requires and invites your rapt attention for extended periods, sustained focused attention, and working memory to hold in mind everything that's happened so far, the different characters' identities, story details, and to relate all of that to the new information you're getting. Without the aid of pictures on the page or puppets acting it out, you have to hold it all in your head. A researcher randomly assigned children in kindergarten and grade 1 to storytelling, where the teacher read from the book, but tried to maintain as much eye contact with the children as possible and never turned the book around so they could see the pictures. Or story reading, where the teacher did it the usual way, reading from the book, and after each page, turning the book around so the children could see the beautiful pictures. And what the researcher found is that vocabulary and recall improved more in the children assigned to storytelling than in children assigned to story reading. That's important because vocabulary assessed at age 3 strongly predicts reading comprehension at 9 to 10 years of age. So while story reading is wonderful and I encourage you to do it, I predict that storytelling should improve attention and working memory more because it taxes them more. So I also encourage you to do storytelling. Cognitive flexibility is the third core executive function. It involves being able to see an issue from different perspectives, think about something in a whole new way, seamlessly adjust to change or the unexpected. It also involves having the flexibility to take advantage of a sudden opportunity, to get around a sudden unexpected problem, or even to admit you were wrong when you get more information. An example of poor cognitive flexibility is given by Alexander Graham Bell. He said, when one door closes, another door opens. But we often look so long and so regretfully upon the closed door that we do not see the ones that open for us. If there's a problem we haven't been able to solve, can you think outside the box to conceive of the problem, frame the problem in a new way, come up with a completely different way of attacking it? A few ways children can practice and thus improve cognitive flexibility. Make a game of trying to come up with creative, crazy, unusual uses of everyday objects. For example, like a table. What kind of crazy, unusual things can you do with a table? I mean, obviously you can write on a table, you can eat your food from a table, but what nutty things can you do? You can hide under it. You can turn it on its side to protect you from things people throw at you. You could turn it upside down to play horseshoes, use it as a percussion instrument, cut it up for firewood. Or a game of trying to find commonalities between an everyday thing and other everyday things. For example, in what way is a carrot like a cucumber? Now, in what way is it like an orange, like a potato, like an apple? The best way, I think, is to invite your children to help you solve a real problem that you're genuinely not sure how to solve. Invite them to think outside the box to come up with creative solutions. They'll love the challenge and will feel great pride in helping an adult and being asked to contribute. And this can make your life a little easier. You don't have to come up with all the solutions yourself. This practice and working on problems and finding solutions is invaluable. Children get in the habit of thinking outside the box, of looking at something from diverse perspectives, and of seeing problems as solvable. So from these three core executive functions, higher order executive functions like problem solving, reasoning, and planning are built. And for practicing all three core executive functions, one of the best things is social pretend play, like playing cops and robbers or storekeeper and customer, parent, child. You have to hold in mind what role you picked and what role your friends picked. You have to inhibit acting out of character. And on the fly in real time, you have to adjust to where your friends are taking that scenario. So you're using all three core executive functions in the course of just playing and enjoying yourself. Also, traditional activities that have been around for millennia, the arts, sports, activities in the great outdoors, woodworking, cooking, taking care of an animal. All of these require planning, cognitive flexibility to respond to unexpected reactions or difficulties, perseverance, even in the face of setbacks or initial failure, creative problem solving, indeed, all of the executive functions. For tens of thousands of years across all cultures, storytelling, dance, art, music, and play have been part of the human condition. People in all cultures made music, sang, danced, did sports, and played games. There are good reasons why those activities have lasted so long and arose everywhere. There are three basic ways to improve functioning that requires executive functions. One is to work directly on training executive functions, challenging them and practicing them. Another is to find ways to reduce the demand on executive functions, to circumvent the need for them. For example, taking notes circumvents the need for working memory. It makes sense. It's a good thing to do. And another way to aid functioning of executive functions is to work on reducing things that impair executive functions, like stress or loneliness. In my opinion, there's been too much focus on what activity to have people do to improve their executive functions, and too little focus on a person's state of mind. In my opinion, the best way to improve your children's executive functions is to help them believe in themselves and their ability to improve. Relax. Try to help reduce the stress in their lives and how stressed they feel about it, and increase the joy in their lives. The different parts of the human being are fundamentally interrelated. Each part, cognitive, spiritual, social, emotional, and physical, is affected by and affects the others. To be the best parent you can be, you need to make sure that your own needs for social and emotional support, physical activity and time outdoors, and stress reduction are met. For your children to show the best executive functions of which they're capable and to excel in school, you need to try to make sure that they're emotionally, socially, spiritually, and physically nourished. Thank you so much for your attention.